Hi, everybody. I'm Roy Firestone, and this is G.O.A.T.S on CaneSport. Our guest is the man who led the Miami Hurricanes to their first national title, a decorated multi-sport athlete. His name is Bernie Kosar. He was a picture-perfect fit for the Canes. After redshirting as a true freshman, he led the Hurricanes to the national title in 1983 as a first-year starter. The following year, he finished fourth in the Heisman voting after throwing for 3,642 yards, 25 touchdowns. However, this highly intelligent quarterback wanted to take his talents to the NFL despite having 2 years of eligibility remaining. Kosar spent 12 years in the NFL before retiring after the '96 season. A one-time Pro Bowler, also managed to make millions as a savvy businessman. But then he lost it all. And by the time he filed for bankruptcy in 2009, his checking account showed a shockingly low balance of just $44 to his name. Here's the story of how Bernie Kosar went from being a multi-millionaire athlete to going broke. It is an amazing story filled with ups and downs, and it's inspiring too. You'll see why. Here's our guest, Bernie Kosar. First of all, Bernie, welcome. It's been a few years since we've seen you. And I'm not trying to sound like Billy Crystal on Saturday Night Live, but man, you look marvelous. You do. Because the last time I saw you, I'm going to be honest with you, you didn't look so good. And I want to ask you about that first. People said, I heard this story. I heard he's drinking. I heard he's got brain damage. I heard this. I heard that. I know you have a new nutrient business. You look fantastic. You seem alert. You seem happy. Let's start with that and talk about this.
Well, it's great to be with you, Roy, today. And thank you. And as a guy with 40-some surgeries, 80-some broken bones, over 100 concussions, 14 or 15 seizures. The last
seizures. Wait a minute. You say seizures?
Yeah, the last couple seizures had me in a coma for 72 and 96 hours.
Was that well kept? Was that a secret that was kept? I never heard that before. Comas.
So yeah, the last couple were pretty extensive, and not that I planned on starting there or even going down that avenue, but again, coming out of that fourth day, that 96th hour, and you're in your fourth day, and you come out of it, and no disrespect to doctors and through the treatments I received, but I still remember to this day the doctor coming in and saying, "God, you're so tough. You're so strong. You made it. You made it through it, and you're doing well. And keep up with your medicine. Keep up with your protocols." And I said to myself, and I said to the doc, "Bro, I think you're killing me." After, I retired in 1997, and from the late 90s through most of this century to be on 3 or 4 high blood pressure pills, 3 or 4 cholesterol pills, 4 or 5 anti-inflammation pills, just to start your day with a dozen type pills that basically erode your stomach. And still I had high blood pressure, high cholesterol. And then that's not even taking into account all the pain medication, the sleeping medication, the depression type medicine. To be able to be medicated like that, to be scripted like that for so many really decades, and then to have the doc say that, you're doing good, you're doing tough, but really that was some of the impetus, I believe, to really get me on a holistic pathway. Because again, not to pick on the docs and for some of the stuff that happened in the NFL doctors and kind of the rehabs and the treatments that they give, but it wasn't working for me. And that ability to try to find a pathway to heal yourself. And I appreciate how you said, hey, it's a business I'm into, but even as we're talking today, it's not really a business that I'm doing. It was really a lifestyle decision and out of self-need. So really proud of the last really 4.5 years when I had that last seizure and I came out of that coma, and the doc said to keep up with the dozen pills to start your day, to keep up with the 300 to 400 milligrams of Oxycontin, to keep up with the sleeping pills, and to be able to, unfortunately, to go since the late 90s and to go 72, 96, 120 hours, 3, 4, 5 days without sleeping, really this century. It was really disheartening. And then the combination of ending up having those type seizures and having those type physical situations where you really are in a coma for 3 and 4 days at a time, trying to figure out ways from a holistic standpoint to not have to take those pills, to not have to take that in. Roy, you had mentioned, you had heard people say you're drinking, things like that. One of the things that really told me, besides the fact that, you're having these concussions, you're having these seizures, you're in and around the hospital and the doctors all the time, was that when you listen to yourself on air and you knew you weren't drinking, yet you're able to not understand yourself and to actually look at yourself and say that that isn't the person, and to be able to, again, find my way in terms of the holistic lifestyle that I'm doing now. As an inbred Slovak who grew up on kibasi and pierogies for breakfast, I love my family. I love my heritage, but that's not the breakfast of champions. That is not conducive to making it to 100 years of age in this lifetime. So to be really a juicer right now, to really work is on my diet. Food is your medicine. So
and when you say juicer, it's a healthy juicer, not the old juicer that we know from the NFL for some players.
Well, when you say juicing, I mean juicing from the drinking perspective, the fruits and vegetables, the water-based hydrations is an absolute staple within my lifestyle. So the juicing, the food is your medicine. I'm a big believer in IV hydration therapy. If we take as an athlete and an ex-athlete, I was big into the supplements and the vitamins and stuff, but basically you take a vitamin supplement, 8 to 12% absorb into your cell and cell membranes, whereas when you do an IV of it, 100% absorbs into the bloodstream. So doing things like vitamin C's, optimizing your B levels, optimizing your vitamin D levels, antioxidants, flushing your system is a big part of my routine, and that ability to juice, to do IVs, and then proudly I'm a big believer in the CBD THC oils, which has been a big savior to where in the last 4.5 years.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you're doing, Bernie, is awesome, because I'm looking at a completely different guy than I saw 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, I will support it right now, whatever you're taking, because you look healthy, you look happy, and part of this story is that you found your way from the up, the down, pulling yourself up back again, financial ruin. We're going to talk about all of it, but if I could, I want to move on a little bit and talk about the beginning. Boardman, outside of Youngstown, Ohio, this was the kid. He was the good kid. He was the church kid. There you are. You were the good boy. You were the good Catholic boy, right? In the church, and you tried to do all the right things. You're a squeaky clean kid, right?
Well, that was second grade at St. Mary's Byzantine Catholic Church in Youngstown, Ohio. So very proud to have had my Northeastern Ohio upbringing, and albeit the Catholic Church has gone through its reiterations and issues over the last couple decades.
Oh yeah. Did you ever? I never asked you this, and maybe it's none of my business. Was there ever any issue with that, with anything inappropriate in the church for you?
Well, to see some things, not to the extent that some other people had seen it, but for me, not to have experienced things at that level, but to have seen some people that have had that, it's incredibly disheartening to see people that we love and respected and stuff that we looked up to see some of the ramifications and costs that came with some of the people that were so hurt by some of those situations.
Did you lose your faith because of those controversies, or a little bit of your faith? Did you mistrust your faith?
I wouldn't say I lost my faith, but I think my faith has absolutely been more internalized to where you absolutely have to look at least myself. I'm looking at things more internally as opposed to more outside to look for other people or other groups like that, because that was disheartening to see somebody in a group like that you look up to have those type of issues and to have not been honest with us.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about high school. We have some clips of you at Boardman High. I don't know how good you thought you really were at this point in your career. Tell us about what kind of kid you were in high school and what kind of an athlete.
Well, I was just going and walking to Northeastern Ohio the other day, and that touchdown run that I ran, running to my left, I ran into that linebacker who was trying to cover me, trying to tackle me on that. But you know, the upbringing that you get in Northeastern Ohio, especially back then in the 70s, the late 70s, almost ironically, like what's kind of happening today in the year 2022, the early 2020s here, where manufacturing jobs aren't really as predominant and big in our part of the country, in our part of the state, like it used to be. Mm-hmm. That first reality really hit back in the late 70s to early 80s. In the 50s and 60s, Northeast Ohio, the Midwest, was the manufacturing capital for sure of the United States. You could debate the world. And when the steel mills in particular started closing in the late 70s, and again, I'm so blessed to have grown up in Youngstown, Ohio, but basically my whole family, we are steel workers. We're lower demographic steel workers. And as the mills go, so goes our family. So when the mills and the manufacturing jobs were going phenomenal in the 50s and 60s, like the country and the economy was, things were great for us. But when the mills started closing and the manufacturing jobs started dissipating in the 70s, that was a massive issue for us and for our families. Really, a lot of the things, and again, in Youngstown, Ohio, Cleveland at that time, there was actually also called the bomb capital of the United States. There was a lot of stuff going on there with organized crime and law enforcement. So a lot of the things that were happening was there wasn't really a way to, from an economy and from a job perspective, for a lot of hope as a younger kid. So sports was really your only vehicle to better yourself and get an opportunity maybe to, I wasn't looking at myself from a pro athlete perspective. So as a junior high and high school kid at Boardman High School, the real goal of playing football and playing baseball and basketball was somehow, some way, the old Jimmy Johnson line from the University of Miami, somehow, some way, find a way to get yourself to college, to do good enough, to get yourself a degree, to give yourself a chance to better yourself, because there really was no jobs. There was a lot of things going on the side in Youngstown back then that distracted you from staying on the right path by being, I want to say, a good boy, a responsible young man, someone that, again, the way we were raised, you know, you wanted to be able to help and take care of your family. And there really wasn't that vehicle in Youngstown. So sports was really the driving impetus to give you a chance to better yourself and better your family.
You know, you spoke about Jimmy, and we actually have a clip very early on when he took you on in Miami. And the one word that came away with me, with Jimmy and you, is the word confidence. I want you to listen to what Coach said.
Bernie took the field. He knew that he was going to put the ball in the end zone. He had such great confidence, and that confidence carried over to the rest of the players and the rest of the team. I think our entire football team knew that we had a chance to win every single game at any time, even if we were behind in the game, for the simple reason we had Bernie Kosar at quarterback.
He was obviously you played for Schnellenberger for the national title, but then you had Jimmy.
God, how blessed I was to have that awesome comment from Jamie Johnson, and how true and accurate of the belief and confidence that we had as a team, and that I had myself, but we had as a team, and the coaches had in us. And God, I can't be any more blessed to have been a University of Miami player and to have been groomed under Howard Snellenberger and Jimmy Johnson at such a young, formative age. You know, as a 58-year-old right now, I absolutely understand how blessed I was to get those two amazing men at that point in my life at 18, 19, and 20 years old. But at 18, 19, and 20, I'm not sure I was so as appreciative as I am now. But those two men and the foundation that they laid within me in terms of self-confidence and self-belief and self-esteem, not only for myself as a young freshman, but I much carried within me. And you could even see by maybe how elevated I am here in my talking right now. That has so resonated with me now in terms of the effect they had on me back then and the positive results that it derived out of me and my teammates and stuff. That so resonates with me that is one thing I absolutely try to stay within me. And absolutely, if I could relay messages for myself to younger people, it's absolutely trying to build on their core confidence, on their core self-esteem, on their belief in themselves. Because if you have some belief in yourself, if you have self-confidence, you absolutely, I think, have a better chance of deriving results.
I mean, I'm listening to you right now. I want to run through a wall myself. I mean, you are a great motivator and a great speaker. I don't think we've ever had a full interview before. I may be wrong about this, but this is the first time. And by the way, as I said before, you're really coherent, thoughtful, reflective.
You know, even to that, when last time you and me talked a half dozen years ago with it, probably why we haven't done complete interviews and stuff was because you could probably only understand 2 out of every 4 words I said.
That may be a little exaggerated, but I know what you're saying.
One of the things that really was inspirational to me and really affected me to massively make a change was about 4.5 years ago. I was diagnosed from some neurologists as we were going through some of this concussion evaluation. Was diagnosed with 5 years left of cognitive brain function. I didn't even understand cognitive at that point, the ability to say it, and my inability to enunciate multiple syllable words was really there. So to communicate, articulate, enunciate anything with multiple syllable words was really challenging. So myself now to be able to somewhat at least delay that process, or to myself get better, and to be able to help out some of my other brothers who have gone through some of these similar issues. And you had said at the beginning of this Zoom interview by saying, hey, some people had said maybe you're drinking, or maybe you have brain injuries and that. And the latter is for sure true. I think myself and a lot of us, we do have these traumatic brain injuries. And instead of pretending they're not there, and instead of trying to make excuses for it, and instead of spending a lot of time on the legal standpoint of it, I chose to spend my time from the standpoint of how do I get myself better? How do I help other guys around me get better? Because there's only X amount of time in a day to be able to spend to allocate your time towards stuff. And as I'm getting older, I really believe I kind of had this attitude when I was younger, but I really don't want to argue, and I don't want to be in those negative type moods. So for me to be trying to look for an answer, look for an organic, holistic answer from a healing standpoint was absolutely therapeutic for me than trying to figure out who's to blame.
Hey, let's talk some Cane football, and we're going to come back to this subject a little bit later in the interview. But I want to talk about this coming out of Bernie Kosar against the Gators in a terrible loss to open the 83 season. But they saw something in you that Howard did with you throwing the ball, and they actually believed that this was coming out for you, and almost they looked at it almost like a win, even though they lost badly. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, the thing that Coach Snellenberger really ingrained in me, and the thing that I can't thank him enough, and I can't love him anymore for, was the ability to always try to keep getting better and to believe in yourself. And that, and he even said to us, if you never quit, if you always keep trying, you never lose. You'll never lose. The clock just runs out. You just run out of time.
I love it. Yeah. Hey, by the way, Bernie, I want you to hear this. I want you to hear this from Howard. Howard talking about how he saw something in you all the way. What is it? Almost 40 years now. Watch this.
When we came out with a 28-3 loss, it looked like we were not going to be the type of football team that we hoped we would be. But when we studied the film and saw that almost to a man, our football team had graded out as winners, and that Bernie Kosar had completed 25 passes to tie Jim Kelly's record, we looked at that game as if, from a technical standpoint, we had won it. And we tried to build on all those good things that happened in that Florida game that we could use as a springboard for down the season.
And then metaphorically speaking, you used it as a springboard to get better as well, right?
Yeah, I love Coach Snellenberger, but that was not what he told me after that game. We did not feel like I won. And after the first quarter in the Astrodome the next week, I didn't play that good there. So I love that he showed some patience and that had that love and belief in me from that Gator game. But that Gator game, to go on the road, and Coach Snellenberger said the clock just runs out on you. Okay, if you don't quit. And we didn't look at that as losing. That was the first step in our journey. And even that day afterwards, Coach said, you could run the tables and our goals are still in front of us. And that was his fifth year, and I was quarterbacking his fifth year. And the coach, when he had come to University of Miami, had said he has a five-year plan to win the national championship at the U. And here it is, the fifth year, and now he's named me the starting quarterback. And that honor / that responsibility, because when I came down there, the internet wasn't there. It wasn't as cool as it is today, where you kind of know who you're competing against, where you fall in a pecking order. Back in those days, you kind of thought, you were the only guy then. And I show up on campus then, and there's Jim Kelly, Mark Richt, and this kid named Vinny Testaverde. So here I am, my skinny little 5'5", running 40, benching a $185, barely lifting it up. And we got Jim Kelly, throwing up 300, and we got Vinny Testaverde throwing 350 and running a 4.7 40. So I'm like thinking, heck, I have no chance to play here. I'm going to be a career backup at best. And then I'm thinking, well, heck, I really did come to school to get my degree. At least that's what I told myself until I got there. And then you get there and you want to compete, but you really realize you got Jim Kelly, Mark Richt, Vinny Testaverde. God, you're fourth, fifth. Kyle Vanderwin's in front of me. I'm fifth and sixth on the depth chart, and it doesn't look good. So I'm going to go to Coach Snellenberger, and I'm going to say to Coach, ask him for an opportunity or ask him what to do. But really what you're saying is, Coach, do I have a chance to play? And I'm a coach, it doesn't look good for me. I see Jim Kelly, Mark Richt, Vinny Testaverde, and he goes, you're right, it doesn't look good for you. He goes, but I'm thinking of transfer. And he goes, I understand why you're doing that. I go, Coach, I'm not sure I want to not start for, be a career backup. He goes, well, you're right. It doesn't look good for you, but let me tell you something. Anything in life that's great, everybody wants it.
Yeah.
And being the University of Miami quarterback, that's great. Other people want it. So you're 18 years old right now. He goes, Bernie, if you run from a challenge now and you go home to Miami and you're going to go to a second level school, He goes, your mom will feel good with you. She'll tell you're a good kid. You'll probably do okay. But anything in life that's great, other people want. And if you run from a challenge now at 18, you're going to run from a challenge your whole life.
Wow.
He goes, it's better to come here, focus, do your best and fail than it is to run from this challenge, because you don't want to be an old man. He goes, you don't want to be an old man like me and have to live with that regret of not knowing.
Wow.
You'll die from within, a competitive person. And that, from that day on, that so resonated with me. And I was so fixated, focused / obsessed with doing everything I can to get myself better over that next 12-month period to be his quarterback. And it all kind of culminated kind of with that Florida game and the score not going good, but the individual plays did. And he had given me such confidence and such a belief in myself that was able to carry forward and carry it into even my teammates who were looking at this skinny freshman and seeing how he's going to handle himself.
Bernie, you did a lot of things right. I think you're very humble here, and you worked your butt off. I mean, you guys ended up beating Notre Dame and a very good West Virginia team, among many teams on the way to the national title. But I want you to tell the folks what you told me. I was at a cocktail party with you once, and you said this about 6 years ago, and you said, Roy, we knew we were going to shock Nebraska. We were almost overconfident, especially because we were going to throw on first down. As we look at you in action early in the game against Nebraska, take us through your confidence level and why you thought you were going to beat the big, bad Cornhuskers. Roll. Go ahead. Tell us, Bernie.
Yeah. So love these plays here. You know, we had a reputation of being a really sophisticated, complex offense, but in reality, we were really a basic formational team with minimal to no motions and shifts. I was in a two-back set almost 99% of the time in that season, in those games, and that actually made defenses simplify themselves. So from a coverage standpoint, they were really real basic in their coverages because we were real basic in our formations. And because, again, I was a freshman, we were such a big underdog. Nobody really gave us a chance to win the game. So many teams, especially back then, played not to lose.
Mm-hmm.
Real conservative. Let's not make a mistake. Hey, you're a young kid. Oh, you're not supposed to win the game. Just keep it close so you don't do anything drastically poor early to put yourself at a disadvantage. Coach Schnellenberger didn't raise us like that. Our coaching staff didn't. And then the kind of guys that University of Miami and Coach Schnellenberger recruited, that mindset wasn't to be passive, docile out there. It was a very confident, we were a really confident bunch. And he really instilled that confidence in us. And to the point where he even pulled me aside a day or two, 2 days before the game, him and Gary Stevens, Mark Trestman, our offense coordinator, and quarterback coach, and flat out said that, and this has affected me even in my pro career. I didn't realize what trust and gifts they gave me in my college career to say that you are responsible for calling the plays. And that we want you, because you're the last one to see the safeties, see what they're doing, and that they're expecting us to be conservative and stuff. So we want you to throw on every play and not just throw short. So that belief that when the coaches are sitting you down and saying that, you know, not only they want you to throw, they want you to throw all bombs and be aggressive. That really resonates with you as the quarterback. That also gave me a good 24 to 36 hours of talk to our guys to get them motivated with it. But that just belief that as the old man now who talks to younger guys and seeing that belief and that confidence that he had as my coach, almost a father figure in me, was such a elevation of my confidence that it absolutely correlated into helping our performance, my performance.
We are going to take two more quick clips of Miami coming back to build a 31 points. Sonny Hurst, the late, great Sonny Hurst, had the call of 2 runs for touchdowns. And then I'm going to talk about Nebraska coming back. Watch Sonny.
Kosar, Highsmith, dive, touchdown, Miami. Bernie takes, gives, Bentley 5, 3, 2, touchdown, Miami. Albert Bentley dribbled his way through.
By the way, I was there that night. I was standing next to Joe Namath on the sideline next to Howard Schnellenberger. You were about 5 or 10 feet. You didn't recognize me. You were too busy in the game, and rightly so. But it was thrilling to watch. You guys have a 31-17 lead in the 4th quarter, and I'm saying, oh my God, they're going to win the title. And then this happens. Nebraska starts roaring back with Rozier and all these guys, and then Jeff Smith with the run right here on this pitch, and you see it right here. He gets into the end zone on a 4th down, and it crushed me, Bernie. And it probably crushed you guys too. They have a chance to tie the game with the extra point. All that work and all that tremendous first half action. And then here is the 2-point conversion. Tell us what's going through your mind.
I liked the 2 touchdown clips of the great Alonzo Highsmith and great Albert Bentley running for touchdowns before you show this beautiful play by Kenny Calhoun right there. In that interim of the Jeff Smith touchdown and where Coach Osborne was going for it for 2 points. And I'm going to say this, I'm not saying this to be funny, Roy, and I'm absolutely not saying this to be cool nor revisionist history and stuff. But there was Coach Schnellenberger does such an amazing job of grooming us to and grooming me to be his quarterback, and almost like he was grooming me for life. And some of the things and principles that he taught me as a quarterback and a leader are absolutely applicable towards parenting and life as I've aged out. But one of the massive things that he taught me before the season, and he harped on this with me, was he goes, you absolutely anticipate the worst thing happening to you when you're out there during the game. So if the other team has a chance to score, you have to anticipate that they're going to score. And you, as the quarterback, must realize what you need to do to overcome that worst thing that happened. Because if the worst thing doesn't happen, you could always go out there and take a knee. Okay, we got 100 guys that could take.
So you're saying prepare, he said prepare for the worst, basically.
Always prepare for the worst. So that was my coaching points through spring practice, through fall practice, through the whole football season. Now, he did not have, now by the Orange Bowl game, you don't need to be telling me that. That's been drilled in my head. So as all that was happening, I was on the sidelines preparing them if they did score the 2 points. I had a set of plays in mind that I wanted to do. And again, I'm not saying this to be funny, but they hadn't stopped us all day, Roy. And there was 47 seconds to go, and we had 2 timeouts. We had an inordinate amount of time to move the ball down the field. So I was actually preparing my 2-minute plays with my guys so that if they did score, would be an immediate hush upon the Orange Bowl, and that would be so deflating. I did not want my guys suffering through any of that emotional letdown. So I had us ready from
this stuff is all revelatory to me. This is really eye-opening. I love the idea that you said we had a full 47 seconds left with 2 timeouts. But I want to go to the next year, Bernie. The next year you get the Gators again. There's 12 seconds left in the game. This was Jim Simpson's call. The game was on the line. You could have gone for a field goal to tie it, but you wanted to win, and we're going to play this, and we're going to talk about it.
Florida hasn't lost it yet. At the moment, they lead by a point. He's going to go in the end zone, and back to the end zone is Eddie Brown. He's got the touchdown.
just awesome to see that play and the combination of the touchdown pass there. But they had scored, again, to Coach Snell, although Coach Johnson was our coach, to Coach Snellenberger's advice / coaching points of always think the worst. We had basically been beating the Gators all day. We had let the game be too close, and they still had a chance. It was Kerwin Bell's first start.
I remember.
And we were winning basically the whole game. Kerwin Bell had a really nice drive, unfortunately, at the end of the game. And our defense had been shutting them down most of the game. So short, they score a touchdown with 30 seconds to go or something to make it look like we had lost the game. So we were massively deflated on the sidelines, but I had been doing just like what we had been talking about during the Nebraska game, anticipating that they were going to score. So I had a set of couple plays in mind to run coming out of that 2 minute, coming out of that last like 25 seconds to go. So we were able actually to go about 50 yards in about 15 seconds. So we actually had about 20 seconds, 18 seconds to go on the clock before that play. So before that play was run, I got in the exact same formation that you saw there. And I acted like we were going to play for the field goal. So the play before that touchdown, I actually baited them and I took a knee and centered the ball in the middle of the field like we're going to prepare for a field goal. But what I really was doing was seeing what type of coverage they were playing.
Unbelievable. I never heard this before. This is, so you basically scammed them a little bit.
Well, I know I was seeing what they did. So then when I got into that formation, took a knee and saw that they were doing a blitz coverage, that I had press covers on Eddie Brown, I then called the timeout to look like we were going over to kick the field goal. You only have 30 seconds to have this discussion with Coach Johnson. He had just come in June from Oklahoma State. Me and him hadn't really developed our relationship yet. This is literally only 2 months later. Coach Jimmy was more defensive oriented. So offensively, this was a really aggressive move for me to suggest that I did not want to kick the field goal right then. I had actually 12 seconds to go. So I really had time to, because it was second down, I really had time to bluff another play. So a play was to throw a fade. And if that was incomplete, we could then have kicked the field goal. So I went over to the sideline to explain that. It did not go over well.
They wanted you to kick the field goal. But Jim Simpson was even fooled. You heard him say at the end, he said, they fooled me, but Bernie, they did fool him.
I actually think that was the first time I got caught swearing on national TV. I want to get my point across.
I want to tighten this up a little bit.
Thank you, Coach, for listening.
A couple of quick thoughts, because we got some more ground to cover. You're a fantastic interview, but I want to try to get through a lot of stuff. So just give me maybe a short paragraph, first of all, on Jim Kelly, and what he meant to you in your career.
Jim Kelly. Well, first, we love him. He is the toughest guy that I know, and partly as a young quarterback coming to the University of Miami and trying to emulate Jim. Probably emulated him too much because I didn't wear a mouthpiece either, so I got most of my teeth knocked out from doing that too. But the ability to be tough, to stand in the pocket and have pocket presence, that ability to stand there and to make that tough throw from that 0 to 20 yards with somebody that close to you, taking that hit without flinching, was so impressive to me, and something that I absolutely tried to emulate within my career.
What about Earl Morrall? People seem to have forgotten that he was one of the mentors for you. Let's talk about Earl, because he's sort of forgotten in this mix a little bit, right?
Well, not by me and Jim, for sure. Coach Morrall, besides being an amazing man, awesome quarterback, what he did with Coach Shula in the NFL, whether it's Baltimore or with the Dolphins. But what he did with me as my first quarterback coach. And mechanically, for a lot of the younger viewers or listeners out there, my football mechanics are poor at best. And today, just about every quarterback coach would absolutely try to change my mechanics, my throwing motion. God, thank you so much for Coach Snellenberger and Coach Earl Morrill, because they tried to get me to come a little more overhand. But in the heat of battle, Coach Morrill said, look, it's not optimal how you throw it, but the main, thou must always get the ball out on time and to its destination on time. And if you could get the ball where it needs to be on time, how it really looks, aesthetic doesn't matter. And I so took that to heart, because aesthetically, I am not the pretty quarterback. So that advice, that coaching point, and then his open willingness to let that really happen. Like, some people say things, but they don't really mean it. For him to genuinely mean that, look, it's on you. If you're mechanically going to be off, then it's on you to make sure you're on time, and your timing is impeccable. So if you could get it there on time and a catchable ball, that's all that really matters. I'm 18, 19 years old. I'm not sure I appreciated it as much as I should have. I absolutely isn't. I can't thank him enough for not changing me. And Coach Morrill and Coach Snellenberger almost mandated that I change plays. They were like, it's not an option. We're going to teach you what the defense is supposed to be like, and how, and each defense has a vulnerable position to it. And thou must attack that. Thou must change the play. So I assumed that that's the way it was everywhere, because in college, they're letting an 18-year-old do it. So I assumed they're letting upperclassmen and professional guys do it. It wasn't until pros that I really realized that was an anomaly, that Earl Morrill and Howard Snellenberger, most coaches at that point, even in the 80s, were not letting their quarterbacks call plays, audible plays, make adjustments like those guys did for me.
We're going to revisit just very briefly, because we're just almost out of time here, but I want to show the list of injuries. This is stunning. When I looked at this list, 15, you probably figured you'd had 50 concussions, maybe. Jaw and nose are broken half a dozen times, teeth knocked out, shoulder arthroscopic surgeries on both, a dozen broken ribs, elbow, multiple surgeries on both, the hip bone removed for ankle surgery, the left hand, fingers, all fingers broken, 10 broken multiple times, knees, both ACLs, ankles, toes, all 10 toes broken multiple times, 20 at least surgeries, broken bones, at least 50, not counting the fingers. My question, was it worth it?
Oh, absolutely. Roy, you know what? I actually believe that what I'm going through now, what I'm learning, that I wouldn't be able to have learned and understood what I've learned over the last 58 years without going through that. I mean, just some of the stuff that we're able to do from the holistic treatment side of it from a health perspective. If I wouldn't have had all those injuries, I don't think I would have been able to be as aggressive as I was from the juicing, the IV side of it, from the ability to really get myself and people off of all the medications and stuff, the ability to be sitting here today and I don't want to say reverse the dementia process, but at least slow down the process to where guys like you and me now could have a conversation like this and actually enjoy it and understand each other, as opposed to the direction I was going 5 years ago.
Bernie, we have to talk about this, and you're very candid in this book. By the way, the book is called Learning to Scramble, and it's really not just about the football scramble, but it's about scrambling with life. And I don't want to turn this into a daddy dearest, but it's in the book. I don't know how much you've been able to reconcile, but I want people to know this. Your father was an industrial engineer. The plant closed, became a salesman. That failed. He became your manager. He scammed his own son when you were selling apples as a kid, scammed him $50, stole money from you, stole your coin collection. He was abusive to you, abusive to your mom. This is in the book, so I'm not taking shots here. He beat you for playing fifth grade football. He was talking to agents while you were in college, which could have cost your eligibility. You thought they were going to be sanctioned, the Canes. He spent your signing bonus without telling you, 360 grand or so. You were broke as a rookie. Here's my question. How were you able to forgive this man? That's my only question.
Well, to that point, when I wrote this book, probably 7-8 years ago, okay, first, I wasn't as healthy as I need to be. Okay. So, and even like some of the stuff I talk about with Coach Snellenberger and Coach Johnson, and you know how much we've talked through the length of this interview about how much I love them. Okay. But both of those guys would be put in jail, okay, for some of the stuff that they did to us back then, from at training camp 3 days and stuff. And I say that in levity, and I know that some people may take a disagreement with this, but that absolutely helped me. So when that tough love that Jimmy Johnson, that tough love that Howard Snellenberger did to us, those murderous 3 days, the voluntary practices, I love them for it. And it's almost like how I poorly, and I'm disappointed in myself in the book too, Roy, from this perspective. And I actually want to apologize for that, because just like Howard Snellenberger and Jimmy Johnson, that really groomed me to be a man and to handle this adversity. I don't think I articulated it good enough, some of the stuff with like my father and that. So some of the things like
was your father hurt? Was your father devastated by this book?
Me and my father's relationship, I think, is doing it is absolutely doing really good. But I'm just saying, from the perspective of toughening me up, especially now as a 58-year-old, I'm so thankful he did that stuff to me. I don't think I'd be able to have accomplished what I accomplished on the football field and be accomplishing what I'm accomplishing now if me and him didn't have that relationship like that. And I'm really thankful, especially from some of the things that came across as physical abuse that was actually probably worse than football stuff, that actually, I think, helped prepare me for some of the physical things that I'm going through, that I've gone through in the last couple decades, that I've kind of embraced.
You've forgiven your father for all the things that he did to you, which may have included, I'm sorry, Bernie, but this is in the book, losing a front office job because he cursed out the owner of the Browns. It screwed you over big time, and yet you were able to forgive this guy and love him. That to me is the most amazing thing in this whole interview, how you were able to do all of that, to somehow find a way to forgive this guy.
Well, thank you, but I don't look at it like that, Roy. The things that are happening around me, the things that he did, my family, that I really has helped me get to where I'm at now. I feel that it's the reason that there's a purpose for me, and things that I'm supposed to learn and go through. And some of the things that I've done, that all of us have done, maybe we'd want them done differently. But at this stage in my life, I'm not looking, whether it's anybody, to actually be mad or angry. I'm actually
you were never a grudge holder, man. You were never a grudge holder.
But and I'm not saying that to take the high road, and I'm not saying that to be cool either. I really genuinely believe that we're here for a purpose, and things are happening for a reason, and trying to find the positive reasons why that's happening, as opposed to trying to feel sorry for myself or look negatively at it. I mean, I genuinely live that way.
You have just a couple of minutes left. The quote was, "I know how to make money. I know how to spend money. The saving part never worked for me. My dad was a steel worker. My brother's company closed. I put my brother and sister through college. Things happened. People needed help." So you don't have any regrets, even when you bottomed out with the $44 to your name. There were no great regrets. Did you trust people too much? Do you blame yourself on any level?
If I had to blame somebody, the latter would probably be the person that I would lean on myself to blame, but I'm not sure I'm even mad at myself for it. But in terms of trusting, it's been tough too, but like, I decided that I'd rather go through life wanting to like you, Roy, and wanting to trust you. And and I say you being Roy, because you're at the other end of the Zoom, but more macro to that point of, yes, I could see where maybe some people could get jaded, get disenchanted with
angry.
that.
How about angry?
Angry. I choose to not want to be angry, and I want to see the positive in people. And yes, I have been, I call it almost pilgrimish at times, and wanting to believe the genuineness of the person I'm talking to, or the believability of it. And as I get older, I still want to continue seeing the good in people, as opposed to looking at you with a jaundiced eye. And, as I'm, kind of getting into the late third quarter, fourth quarter of my life, of wanting to doing well by doing good, by wanting to give back to people.
Bernie, how are you now financially? Are you going to be okay? You're not, are you broke? I mean, I hate to ask quick on a TV interview, but do you feel financially challenged? You're going to be okay?
You know what? Does anybody ever feel financially completely secure? I'm not sure, but
are you out of the woods financially?
It depends. Here's how I struggle answering that right now. If I say, no, I'm not, that's probably not accurate. And if I say, yes, I am out of the woods, my phone will start ringing enormously again, because I still haven't learned to say no, Roy.
Hey, we got a minute or so left. I want you to give me one line, not a paragraph, but one line. These are all chapters in your book on these words, because I find this interview to be very inspiring on a lot of levels, on a lot of things you were saying, and your spirit and your soul and your goodness. And you've always pretty much been that guy. I mean, yeah, you had some mistakes, and Belichick, of course, he cut you in '93 and it was heartbreaking, but you've never really held on to bitterness, man. It never ate you up. You never held on to grudges, even to Belichick. But I'm going to throw some words at you. Just give me one word or maybe a sentence on the following, because it's in your book. Intelligence.
Essential.
Preparation.
I love it. I love preparation.
Leadership.
I like having good leaders around me.
Mm-hmm. Discipline.
Essential again.
Mm-hmm. Brotherhood.
The locker room.
Money.
Could do without it.
And you have.
Yeah. And you know what's funny? To me, at least, and I've said this to people, because there is a degree. Look, we all like, whether we say it or not, we like decent things to a degree, for making our lifestyle probably a little easier and stuff. But I absolutely found that I was significantly more happy and life was less stressful the less money you have. And it's a direct correlation. There's a direct correlation to the amount of zeros in your bank account and how much this thing rings. And when there's less zeros, you have less friends. It's unbelievable. It's really,
Is less friends a good thing or a better thing? Fewer
I
friends?
think, well, actually, I think it was a reality check that you really didn't have them as friends.
Wow. Okay, we have just a couple more. Duty. Your duty.
I feel a big responsibility to share some of these things I've learned.
Humility.
Hard to find them, people.
The most important one, man, to me is love. Where do you find your love?
You have to, I really find people having to and wanting to have to love themselves first to be able to genuinely love others.
Did you?
It took me a while to feel, it actually took me a while from some of that inbred Catholicism to actually think that it's okay to look at yourself and to believe and to actually compliment yourself.
Do you forgive yourself, Bernie, and as well as you forgive others?
That's harder. That's absolutely harder to do.
Why?
Could it be the inbred Catholic guilt that they lay upon us?
Could be.
That was always wrong.
Hey, Bernie, I haven't really done this kind of interview with you in my entire career, and I've been doing this for 35, 40 years. You are really electrifying to talk to. I like you as a person. It doesn't matter what you think of me saying that, but I like what I'm hearing from a good person, a healthier person, a more, I think, disciplined and kind human being. You're a hell of a man. And I want you to know that you are loved in Miami, you are loved in Cleveland, you're loved by fans, and you're loved by your friends. You're a hell of a man. And I want you to know that.
Wow. Thank you, Roy. Thank you for swallowing my cranium.
Thanks, brother.
Thanks, bro.
Bernie Kosar, quite a story. That's our story on G.O.A.T.S. Bernie Kosar, our guest. We'll see you next time, everybody.